In a deep, dark cave, nestled high in the Dragon's Tooth Mountains, a young dragon named Ignis was born. He was a small thing then, all sharp angles and soft scales the color of a midnight sky. His world was the cave, and his world was his mother, a magnificent dragon named Lyra. She was his sun, his moon, and all his stars. Ignis never knew his father. His mother would say he was a great and powerful dragon, his fire as bright as 1,000 suns, but her voice would always trail off into a sad silence. She never spoke of how he was lost, only that he was gone, and that was that. Lyra was fiercely protective of her only son. She would wrap her great body around him at night, her scales a warm, comforting armor against the cold mountain winds. She taught him how to hunt, how to fly on the treacherous currents that whipped through the peaks, and how to breathe a perfect, controlled flame. "Be careful, my little spark," she would whisper, her voice a low rumble. "The world outside this cave is not as kind as your mother's heart. It is full of sharp edges and dragons who do not wish you well." She guarded him with the ferocity of a storm, her love a shield against a world he had yet to understand. As Ignis grew, so did his strength. His small, soft scales hardened into shimmering obsidian plates, and his fire, once a mere flicker, now roared from his throat like a furnace. He was bigger than the other young dragons, faster too. He would spend his days soaring through the canyons, his shadow a fleeting darkness on the rocks below. His mother watched him with a mixture of pride and a deep, gnawing fear. She saw the power in him, a reflection of the father he never met. It was a power that made her heart ache, for she knew what such strength could invite. The young dragon, however, knew nothing of his mother's worries. He felt the power thrumming through his veins like a wild song. He was happy. The cave was his home, a safe haven filled with the scent of his mother and the echoes of her love. He would bring her the juiciest mountain goats and the shiniest rocks he could find, laying them at her feet like precious treasures. He lived in a simple world of a son's devotion and a mother's unending care, unaware of the heavy secrets that slept in the shadows of their mountain home, waiting for the right moment to awaken. As Ignis reached adulthood, his reputation began to spread beyond the familiar peaks of his home. Stories of the powerful black dragon with fire as hot as a volcano's heart traveled on the wind. Other dragons, proud and boastful, came to challenge him. They sought to test their might against the rising legend. The challenges took place in the Grand Caldera, a vast, ancient crater that served as the dragon's arena. Ignis, full of youthful confidence and the thrill of the fight, accepted every challenge that came his way. He was a natural, a true warrior in the sky. His first few battles were a blur of claws and fire. He moved with a grace that defied his massive size, his movements a deadly dance. He defeated every opponent. Some fights were over in a flash of his brilliant flame. Others were long, grueling contests of strength and will. But the result was always the same. Ignis would stand victorious, his roar of triumph echoing across the mountains. He became a champion, a hero to some, a fearsome rival to others. His name, once whispered only by his mother, was now roared by dragons from every corner of the land. With every victory, a shadow of worry grew deeper in Lyra's heart. She did not like the fighting. She hated the roars of the crowd and the smell of scorched earth that clung to her son when he returned. "Why must you do this, Ignis?" she would plead, her voice trembling. "There is no honor in this violence. It is a dangerous game." She would tend to his wounds, her touch gentle, her eyes filled with a sorrow he couldn't comprehend. She saw not a champion, but her little spark, flying closer and closer to a flame that had consumed his father. But Ignis was deaf to her pleas. He was caught in the intoxicating whirlwind of fame and power. He saw the respect in the eyes of other dragons. He heard the cheers, and he felt invincible. "I have to, Mother," he would explain, his voice full of passion. "It is who I am. I am the strongest. I have to prove it." He didn't understand her fear. To him, the fights were a glorious sport, a way to show the world the strength that burned within him. He did not see the darkness that his mother saw gathering on the horizon. The day came when Ignis received the ultimate challenge. A message arrived, carried by a nervous younger dragon. He was invited to battle a legend, a dragon of immense age and power known only as the Obsidian King. This was a dragon from the old tales, a myth made real, said to be as ancient as the mountains themselves. For Ignis, this was the final test, the chance to cement his legacy as the greatest dragon of all time. His heart pounded with excitement. He had never been defeated, and he did not believe he ever could be. He was ready to face a legend. The battle was held at the highest peak, under a sky the color of bruised plums. The Obsidian King was enormous, far larger than Ignis, his scales a dull, scarred gray, like ancient rock. When the fight began, Ignis was a storm of fury and fire, but the old king was a mountain. He absorbed the blows, his ancient hide seemingly impenetrable. For every ferocious attack Ignis launched, the old dragon had a calm, powerful counter. The air cracked with the sound of their battle, a symphony of roars and the clash of unstoppable forces. Hours passed, and neither could gain the upper hand. As the sun began to set, staining the clouds red, both dragons were exhausted. Their fires were weak, their wings heavy. With a final, silent agreement, the battle ended. It was a draw. A draw. Ignis had never known anything but victory. The feeling was hollow, a cold stone in his chest. He flew home, his powerful wings feeling leaden, his pride wounded for the first time in his life. The cheers of the crowd felt distant and meaningless. He had faced a legend and had not won. For a champion like Ignis, a draw felt exactly like a loss. He found his mother waiting at the mouth of their cave, her eyes wide with a familiar fear. He landed heavily, the sound echoing his heavy heart. "I did not win, Mother," he said, his voice quiet, stripped of its usual bravado. "I fought the Obsidian King, and I could not defeat him." He looked at his mother, expecting comfort, but instead he saw a strange, new emotion flicker in her eyes. It was a look of cold, hard grief, mingled with a fire he had never seen in her before. The secret she had held for so long was about to be unleashed. Lyra looked at her son, at his slumped shoulders and the new scars that marked his scales. A sad, terrible sigh escaped her. "The Obsidian King," she whispered, her voice a low, dangerous rumble. "So, you have met him." She finally told him the truth, the story she had locked away in her heart for so long. "That is the dragon who killed your father, Ignis. Your father, a dragon as strong and proud as you, challenged him long ago. He fought with all his heart, but the Obsidian King was too old, too cruel. He did not grant your father the honor of a fair fight. He killed him." The words struck Ignis harder than any physical blow. The sadness of his draw was instantly burned away, replaced by a white-hot rage. It was a fire far more intense than any he had ever breathed. His father, the faceless hero of his mother's stories, now had a killer. His mother's fear, her hatred of fighting, it all made sense now. "He wanted revenge," Lyra continued, her eyes now burning with unshed tears and ancient anger. "I have wanted it every day since you were born. I see your father in you, Ignis. The same power, the same fire, the same destiny." Ignis did not have to wait long. News of the epic draw had spread, and the Obsidian King, his own pride stung, issued a second challenge. This time, Ignis accepted not for glory or for fame, but for vengeance. When they met again on that high peak, Ignis was a different dragon. He was not the confident champion. He was the avenging son. He fought with a calculated fury, a cold purpose guiding his every move. He remembered his mother's words, his father's stolen life. This battle was not a sport. It was justice. This time, he found a weakness in the old king's defense, and with a final, mighty roar, he won. The Obsidian King fell from the sky, his legend ending in silence. Ignis returned to the cave, not with a roar of triumph, but in quiet contemplation. He landed before his mother, the setting sun casting a long shadow behind him. He was no longer just a champion. He was the dragon who had avenged his father. Lyra looked at her son, the mighty warrior, and saw the small spark she had raised. She nuzzled him gently, a deep, rumbling purr in her chest. The long winter of her grief was finally over. The ghost that had haunted their cave was gone. Together, mother and son watched the first stars appear in the peaceful night sky. Their shared silence, a testament to a final, hard-won peace.